basic realities. And then the question becomes, well, will the black middle class, will the black bourgeoisie itself become more and more neglectful of the black poor and working classes and view itself as the center of the universe? So their opportunities become the main measure of black progress. Will that black bourgeoisie betray black poor and working people and still want to talk about blackness and still want to talk about their individual and personal agendas at the very moment when the new Jim Crow is becoming more and more pervasive? And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. Now, the unprecedented opportunity for the black middle class was tied to a Cold War liberalism that tried to confine the black struggle just to narrow rights with the U.S. nation state, not being in solidarity with decolonization in the third world, especially Africa, and not being critical of Wall Street, not being critical of the ruling classes in the United States. So black middle class folk fighting for the crumbs, and they're never really a bourgeoisie. They're a lumpen bourgeoisie, because the black bourgeoisie is a bourgeoisie under the larger American white bourgeoisie. So it still has to deal with being disrespected. It still has to deal with being discriminated against. It still has to deal with whether its voting rights will in fact be suppressed. And those voting rights are a preoccupation of the black middle class. Why? Because most of the black masses don't vote anyway. They've given up on the system. Now, I think they should vote, but that's just a fact. That's just a fact. So that I'm with Barbara and the others talking about poor people's campaign. I'm with them about voting rights. But if they're not talking about abolishing poverty in a fundamental way, the way Barbara and Thea Harris are talking about, the way Martin talked about it, the way Malcolm talked about it, the way Fannie Lou Hamer, the way Marion Wright Edelman talked about it, then they just want some neoliberal version of poverty, just like the folk in the 50s wanted a liberal version of Jim Crow.